Have you ever felt trapped by someone who doesn't value you, but still occupies all your thoughts? Have you ever spent sleepless nights replaying conversations, remembering glances, wondering where you went wrong, how you could have done things differently, while the other person moves on with their life as if nothing happened? It's like an invisible prison. You know you need to move on, but something inside you keeps pulling you back. And the more you try to forget, the more this person seems to be present in your mind. The pain of feeling discarded, ignored, or left behind is one of the most intense experiences a human being can endure. It's like a part of you has been torn away, and now there's a void that feels impossible to fill. In today's video, you'll learn how to emotionally detach from someone who doesn't value you, using profound Stoic lessons that will transform the way you view this pain. So let's dive into the teachings. Lesson 10. Recognize the power of your mind. The 10th lesson from Marcus Aurelius is clear. The mind is where the power lies. Everything you feel, every attachment, every pain, stems from the interpretation you give to things. Often, the suffering doesn't come from the person themselves, but from what you believe about them. You suffer because you think you need them to be happy, because you create expectations that were not met, because you project onto them a value that, in reality, is within you. Emotional detachment begins when you become aware of this power. It's not the absence of the person that hurts, but the idea you created that they were indispensable. Marcus Aurelius said, "If something external afflicts you, it is not that thing that disturbs you, but the judgment you make about it. And that judgment is in your power to change." Stop and reflect. How many times have you fed thoughts that reinforced your dependence? How many times have you mentally repeated phrases like, "I can't live without this person"? That's not true, but repetition strengthens the belief. When you realize that you can choose how to react, you start to weaken the chains. The Stoic exercise is simple but powerful. Whenever the memory of this person arises, ask yourself, is this memory helping me grow, or is it keeping me stuck in the past? If it doesn't help, discard it. Just like we discard what's useless, you must learn to discard thoughts that fuel pain. Training the mind to filter this is an act of discipline, but also of liberation. Remember, true power doesn't lie in the person who left you, but in how you choose to react to their absence. Lesson 9. Accept the nature of impermanence. Everything in life is temporary. People come, people go, and resisting this only brings suffering. Marcus Aurelius meditated daily on impermanence, reminding himself that everything he loves could disappear at any moment. This isn't pessimism, it's realism. When we accept that nothing is eternal, loss becomes a natural part of the life process. How many times have you believed something would be forever, and it wasn't, and yet you survived? This proves you are stronger than you think. Attachment is the root of pain, and detachment is the key to peace. Practice the Stoic reflection. Visualize life as a flowing river. Each person who enters your story is like a drop that passes by your path. Some stay for a while, others disappear quickly. But the river never stops flowing. You must continue moving forward, even if someone decides to leave. Accepting impermanence doesn't mean being cold or indifferent. It means being aware that everything is temporary, and therefore should not be a cause for despair. When you look at life with this clarity, you realize you haven't lost anything. You've simply completed a cycle. And the beauty of life is precisely in this, allowing cycles to end so that others can begin. Lesson 8. Differentiate what is under your control. One of the foundations of Stoicism is the distinction between what you can control and what you cannot. And emotionally detaching from someone requires you to deeply understand this. You cannot control the other person's feelings, the choices they make, or whether they will value you or not. But you can control your reaction, your emotional discipline, and your perspective on what happened. Often, pain increases because we try to fight against the inevitable. You insist on changing someone, on making them see what they lost, on convincing them to come back. But this is a waste of energy. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it's beyond your control, accept it. If it's within your control, use your reason." Emotional detachment happens when you stop wasting energy on things that aren't up to you. Every time your mind starts to create plans on how to win someone back or seek revenge, remember, none of this is in your power. The only thing you control is yourself. And when you take on this responsibility, you discover immense freedom. You don't have to be a hostage to someone else's desires. You are free to build your own life, regardless of who stayed or left. Lesson 7. Redirect your energy to self-development. The best way to emotionally detach isn't by trying to forcefully erase someone, but by replacing that space with something greater, your evolution. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste time in lamentation. He used every difficult situation as a stepping stone to become better. Ask yourself, how much energy have you already invested in someone who didn't value you? What if that energy was applied to learning a new skill, strengthening your mind, taking care of your body, enriching your soul? Detachment happens naturally when you discover there's a world of possibilities outside that bond. Make your growth a shield. The more you strengthen yourself, the less space there is for pain. Stoics didn't see difficulties as obstacles but as training opportunities. This is the key. Use this experience not as a reason to break, but as a reason to rebuild yourself even stronger. Lesson 6. Practice rational detachment. One of the greatest causes of human suffering is allowing ourselves to be dragged by events as if we were slaves to what is beyond our control. Stoicism teaches us that life will always be unpredictable, filled with ups and downs, victories and defeats, joys and disappointments. But the way we react to it is what truly defines our inner peace. This is where rational detachment comes in. The ability to step back, take a deep breath, and observe the situation as if you were a spectator, rather than being consumed by the intense emotions of the moment. Often, when something goes wrong, whether it's an unjust criticism, betrayal, loss, or frustration, our first impulse is to react with anger, pain, or despair. But rational detachment calls for a different stance. It's not about ignoring what happened, but about looking from the outside, as if you were a wise advisor observing someone else's life. This changes everything because by analyzing the situation calmly and consciously, you regain the power that emotions tried to strip from you. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor and Stoic philosopher, practiced this daily. In his journal, which we now know as Meditations, he wrote to himself as if giving advice to another man. This practice helped him see his problems clearly, without being blinded by the heat of the moment. It's as if rational detachment were an invisible shield against the onslaught of uncontrolled emotions. When you practice this detachment, you're not becoming cold or indifferent. In fact, you're cultivating the strength to not be enslaved by what you feel. Because if you stop and think, most of the time when we make wrong decisions, it's when we act on the heat of emotion. We say what we shouldn't, act impulsively, create unnecessary conflicts, or regret hasty choices. Rational detachment breaks this destructive cycle. Imagine, for example, that someone disregards you or ignores your presence. In the heat of the moment, you might feel anger, sadness, or a desire to prove something to that person. But if you take a step back and observe the scene as if you were an impartial judge, you'll realize that the other person's attitude doesn't define who you are. You'll realize that reacting explosively would only give more power to those who tried to destabilize you. Rational detachment restores control to you. This also works in situations of pain and loss. When something seems unbearable, the mind creates a storm of thoughts. I'll never get over this. It's all lost. My life is over. But by detaching, you can see the reality without the exaggerations of emotion. You can realize that the pain is real, yes, but also that it won't last forever. You can see that there is an exit, even when the storm feels endless. A practical technique for applying rational detachment is asking yourself, if my best friend were going through this, what advice would I give them? This question shifts you from the position of a victim to that of a wise advisor. And in this shift, clarity arises. You stop being consumed by the situation and begin to dominate it with lucidity. Another powerful practice is writing. Writing down your thoughts as if you were describing the scene from the outside helps the mind organize the chaos. It's as if you were putting into words the storm inside you, and by doing so, you begin to calm it. This was Marcus Aurelius' secret weapon, and it can be yours too. Rational detachment is, therefore, the art of not losing yourself in what you feel, but of using reason as a guide. It doesn't nullify emotion, but prevents it from owning you. It's a practice that transforms pain into lessons, criticism into growth opportunities, and crises into tests of wisdom. Remember, the world will always try to pull you into chaos. People will provoke you, situations will hurt you, and the unexpected will shake you. But if you master rational detachment, none of this will have the power to destroy you. You'll be like a rock in the middle of a stormy sea. The waves crash, the foam covers, but in the end, the rock remains firm, unshaken. This is the lesson the Stoics left for us. Look from the outside, observe, breathe, reason. Only then act. This small distance you create between what happens and how you react is the space of freedom, peace, and true inner strength. Lesson 5. Replace illusion with gratitude. A large part of emotional suffering comes from illusion. The illusion that this person was indispensable to your life. The illusion that only they could complete you. The illusion that without them, there is no future. You create an image in your mind that doesn't correspond to reality. And it's this image that keeps you trapped. It's not the person themselves, it's the illusion you feed. Marcus Aurelius said that the mind has the power to turn any event into an ally or an enemy. When you insist on seeing an ending as a tragedy, you make yourself the victim of your own narrative. But if you learn to look at the same situation with new eyes, it can become a source of growth. And this is where the practice of gratitude comes in. Stoicism teaches us not to curse experiences, but to use them as material for our evolution. Even losses can be seen as a disguised gift. Ask yourself, what if this ending, this rejection, this abandonment is protecting me from something much worse? What if this is a path for me to discover my true value, something I would never have discovered if I had stayed attached to this person? Gratitude doesn't mean denying pain. It means recognizing that, even in suffering, there is something that can be learned. It means saying, I didn't lose, I learned. I wasn't rejected, I was redirected. I wasn't diminished, I was called to grow. This mindset shift is liberating because it takes the weight of loss and turns it into an opportunity. Look back honestly. How many things in your life that seemed like the end when they happened later revealed themselves as a new beginning? How many doors closed just for better ones to open? If this has happened before, why couldn't it happen now? The problem is that you cling to the illusion. You believe you lost something irreplaceable. But nothing that truly belongs to you can be lost. If it's gone, it's because it fulfilled its purpose. What is eternal will not abandon you. What is temporary sooner or later had to leave. Gratitude, in this sense, is the antidote to illusion. It makes you see not what ended, but what stayed. Lessons stayed, experiences stayed, proof stayed that you are capable of feeling, of living, of starting over. The opportunity stayed to use this pain as fuel to become stronger, wiser, more conscious. Marcus Aurelius had the habit of being thankful even for difficulties because he knew that they shaped character. He understood that life doesn't happen against you, but for you. And when you change that perspective, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start saying, what good can I do from this? From today onwards, try to replace each thought of loss with a thought of gratitude. Instead of saying, he left me, say, now I have the chance to discover my strength. Instead of thinking, I lost someone, say, I gained freedom to grow. Every phrase you change also changes the way your heart feels. Gratitude is revolutionary because it takes the other person out of the center of your life and puts you in control. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the protagonist of your own story. What seemed like an end becomes a turning point. What seemed like a weakness becomes a source of power. Remember, no one can take from you what is truly yours. No one can steal your worth, your dignity, your ability to start over. Everything that left you no longer belonged to you. Everything that stayed is exactly what you need to continue. Replace illusion with gratitude, and you will realize that you haven't lost anything. You've only freed yourself from what wasn't meant for you. Lesson 4. Remember your true essence. Finally, Marcus Aurelius teaches us not to forget who we really are. Often, attachment arises because you have lost yourself in someone else. You forgot your worth, let your identity blend in, and believed you needed the other person to feel complete. But the truth is, you are already whole. Emotional detachment happens when you reconnect with yourself. When you remember that your happiness doesn't depend on anyone, that your essence is enough. Stoicism invites us to seek within, not outside, the source of our peace. Look within and recognize you already have everything you need to move forward. This person was not your foundation. They were just a chapter. The book of your life continues, and you are the author. Lesson 3. Rewrite the narrative you tell yourself. A large part of emotional pain isn't in the event itself, but in the story you keep repeating in your mind. You create a narrative where that person is the center of your life, where everything revolves around them, and then convince yourself that without them, there is no happiness. But this is just a mental construct. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that it is not the events that affect us, but the way we interpret them. Ask yourself, what story have you been telling yourself? Maybe it's the one that you lost the love of your life, or that you'll never find someone like them, or that you're not worthy of being loved. But what if that's not the truth? What if that person merely played a temporary role in your life? What if your loss is actually a liberation so you can find something much greater? Stoicism teaches that we can change the course of our thoughts. And by changing the narrative, we change the emotion we feel. Replace the story of loss with the story of overcoming. Replace the victim narrative with the protagonist narrative. You didn't lose, you freed yourself. You weren't rejected, you were redirected. Every time the memory comes, tell yourself, I am not the fragile character that this mind insists on creating. I am the author of my story. And in this chapter, I choose to win. This shift in perspective is what separates those who remain stuck in the past from those who move forward to an extraordinary future. Lesson 2. Practice emotional silence. One of the greatest traps when trying to detach from someone is feeding endless internal conversations, imaginary dialogues, and repetitive memories. You relive scenes, create responses you never said, and repeat discussions that have already ended. This mental cycle is poison that keeps the wound open. Marcus Aurelius teaches us to cultivate the silence of the mind. This doesn't mean suppressing thoughts forcefully, but learning not to engage with them. When the memory arises, don't fight it. Just observe it as if it were a cloud passing through the sky. Don't give it voice, don't feed it, don't prolong it. This emotional silence is powerful because it removes the fuel from the pain. The mind only keeps something alive when you keep conversing with it internally. If you decide not to respond, not to debate, not to insist, the thought loses strength and naturally fades. Practicing silence is a daily exercise. Whenever you feel the urge to relive memories or search for answers that will never come, tell yourself, it's not worth my peace. I choose silence. And in this silence, you discover that freedom begins within. Emotional silence is not emptiness. It is clarity. It's the space where you stop being a hostage to someone else and become the owner of your mind. Lesson 1. Turn pain into purpose. Stoicism never taught us to flee from pain, but to transform it into strength. Marcus Aurelius saw every difficulty as training for the spirit, as a test to become wiser and stronger. When you lose someone, when you suffer for not being valued, you have two choices: break or build yourself. The truth is, the greatest transformations come from the most intense pains. How many people haven't used disappointment as fuel to change their lives, to grow, to awaken a power they didn't know they had? This can be your story too. Turning pain into purpose means asking, what is this experience trying to teach me? Maybe it's for you to learn to value yourself. Maybe it's to show that you can be happy alone. Maybe it's to push you onto a greater path that you never would have chosen if you were still stuck in the past. Don't let pain be an end. Make it a beginning. Stoicism reminds us that nothing is useless if we know how to use it well. Even disappointment can be a springboard. Even rejection can fuel your greatness. When you decide that this pain won't destroy you, but will shape you, you discover an inner strength that no abandonment can take away. And that's when you stop being a hostage of the past and start being the creator of your destiny. If you feel that you are still stuck with someone who didn't value you, it's time to act. Don't let the past control your mind or your happiness. Start applying these Stoic lessons today and reclaim your inner peace. Master your thoughts, detach wisely, and strengthen your soul. Every step you take toward freedom is a step toward your liberation. Subscribe, like, and share to help others reconnect with themselves as well. And remember, true strength lies within you. Take control now.